Hello everyone, what is going on? Raven here. Welcome back. Today is another crime video for you all, but this one is definitely interesting. The woman that we're talking about today is Andrea Yates, okay? She was from Houston, Texas, but here's the problem. She confessed to drowning her 5 children in a bathtub in their house on June 20th, 2001. Now, it is said that she has been suffering from postpartum psychosis, ever had to deal with that sort of thing, please make sure you get all the help you need and do not let it take over you, don't let it change you, don't let it do anything like that, because I actually had postpartum depression myself, so I get it. A little bit of background about our woman here. She's the youngest of 5 children. She suffered from bulimia during her teenage years. She suffered from depression. At 17, she spoke to a friend about suicide. She was class valedictorian, captain of the swim team, and officer in the National Honor Society. She completed a 2-year pre-nursing program at the University of Houston, graduated from the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston. She worked as a registered nurse at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center. She met Russell or Rusty Yates, who was an engineer, at the Sunscape Apartments in Houston. They moved in together, were married in April of 1993. They announced that they would be having as many babies as nature allowed. They bought a 4-bedroom house in Texas. Their first child, Noah, was born in February of 1994, so that's like a year after they got married. Just before Rusty accepted a job offer in Florida, so they relocated to a smaller trailer. By the time the birth of their 3rd child, Paul, they moved back into Houston and purchased a GMC motorhome. The birth of their 4th son, Luke, she became very depressed. Rusty found her shaking and chewing on her fingers. She attempted to commit suicide by overdosing on pills. Now, I do not recommend any of this to anyone. Anyway, she was admitted to the hospital, prescribed antidepressants. After her release, she begged Rusty to let her die, as she held a knife up to her neck. Again, she was hospitalized. She was given a cocktail of medications. An antipsychotic drug was one of the medicines, including the other prescription meds that they gave. Her condition improved, and she was prescribed it on her release. And the medication is called Haldol. It is an antipsychotic drug. So, after her release, Rusty moved the family to a small house for the sake of her health, and she appeared to be stabilized. In 1999, she suffered a nervous breakdown, which accumulated into 2 suicide attempts and 2 psychiatric hospitalizations that summer. She was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis. Her first psychiatrist, Dr. Eileen Starbranch, testified that she urged her and Rusty not to have any more children, as it would guarantee future psychotic depression. Well, they conceived their 5th and final child approximately 7 weeks after she was discharged. She stopped taking the medication in March of 2000. She gave birth to her daughter Mary on November 30th, 2000. And she seemed to be doing well, till the death of her father on March 12, 2001. She stopped taking more medication, she mutilated herself, and read the Bible feverishly. She stopped feeding Mary. She became so incapacitated that she required immediate hospitalization. April 1st, she came under the care of Dr. Mohammed Saeed. She was treated and released. May 3rd, 2001, she degenerated back into the near catatonic state and filled the bathtub in the middle of the day. She would later confess to police she had planned to drown the children that day, but decided against doing so. She was hospitalized the next day after a scheduled doctor visit. Her psychiatrist determined she was probably suicidal and had filled the tub to drown herself. Well, that's not necessarily the case. So they were living in a suburb of Clear Lake City. She continued under Dr. Said's care until June 20th, 2001. Rusty left for work, leaving her alone to watch the children against Dr. Said's instructions to supervise her around the clock. His mother, Dora Yates, had been scheduled by Rusty to arrive an hour later to take over for her. In the space of that hour, she drowned all 5 children. She started with John, Paul, and Luke, laid them in her bed. She then drowned Mary, whom she left floating in the tub. Noah came in, asked what was wrong with Mary. He ran in, but she soon caught and drowned him. She left him floating in the tub and laid Mary in John's arms in the bed. She then called the police, repeatedly saying she needed an officer but would not say why. She then called Rusty, told him to come home right away, which of course he did doing so. She confessed to drowning the 5 children. She waited for Rusty to leave for work that morning before filling the bathtub because she knew he would have prevented her from harming them. After the murders, police found the family dog locked up. Rusty advised that it would normally been allowed to run free, and so when he left the house that morning, it was alleged she locked it in the cage to prevent it from interfering. Rusty got a family friend to act as, his wife's attorney. Although defense expert testimony agreed that Yates was psychotic, Texas law requires that in order to successfully assess the insanity defense, the defendant must prove that they could not discern right from wrong at the time of the crime. A jury rejected the insanity defense and found her guilty. Prosecution had sought the death penalty. The jury refused that option. The trial court selected to life imprisonment in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice and was eligible for parole in 40 years. Little cut in here. Why are you giving a woman that killed her kids parole? Why? Just why? Okay? I want to know what people think that you kill someone, especially someone, innocent and pure and good, and you give them parole, or the eligibility of parole. Okay. On January 6, 2005, a Texas Court of Appeals reversed the convictions because California psychiatrist and prosecution witness Dr. Park Dietz admitted he had given materially false testimony during the trial. He stated that shortly before the murders, an episode of Law & Order had aired featuring a woman who drowned her children and was acquitted of murder by reason of insanity. What does that have to do with anything? A TV show. Really. So, author Suzanne O'Malley was covering the trial. She had previously been a writer for Law & Order and immediately reported that no such episode existed. But 2 years later, that episode did, go live on TV, and it was based on part of Yates' case. So the court they basically admitted that the jury might have been influenced by the false testimony, and therefore a new trial would be necessary. January 9th, Yates again entered pleas of not guilty by reason of insanity. February 1st, 2006, she was granted release on bail on the condition that she admitted a mental health treatment facility. July 26, 2006, after 3 days of deliberations, Yates was found not guilty by reason of insanity, and as defined by the state of Texas, she was committed to the North Texas State Hospital, and, basically after that, in 2007, she was moved to Caryville State Hospital. So she is in a mental institution. Now, everyone has agreed that state prosecutors and defense lawyers agreed that she was severely mentally ill, and she was in one of several psychotic diseases at the time that she committed the crime. The state of Texas asserted that she was, by legal definition, aware enough to judge her actions as right or wrong, despite her mental defect. The prosecution further implied spousal revenge as motive of the killings, despite the conclusion of defense experts that there were no evidence to support such motive. An update on this young woman, who is a lot older now. She is still in the mental hospital. She has never wanted to leave. She has never wanted to be released. She has chosen to be there every single year, okay? Andrea Yates, who is now actually her ex-husband, they did file for divorce, said that it was the psychiatrist Dr. Saeed's responsibility for recognizing and properly treating her psychosis. Although saying that he is not medically trained person. The real question to me is, how could she have been so ill and the medical community not diagnose her, not treat her, obviously not protect our family from her? Rusty testified that he never knew she had visions and voices. He said he never knew she had considered killing the children. Neither did Dr. Saeed, even though the delusions could have been found in medical records from 1999. He reluctantly prescribed Haldol, the same drug that worked in a drug cocktail for her in 1999. After a few weeks, he took her off the drug, citing his concerns about side effects. Though her condition seemed to be worsening 2 days before the drownings, Rusty drove her to Dr. Saeed's office. The doctor refused to try Haldol longer or return her to the hospital. He added that his wife was too sick to be discharged from her last stay in the hospital in May 2001. He said he noticed the staff lower their heads as if in shame and embarrassment, turning away without saying a word. Hospital had no other choice due to the 10-day psychiatric hospitalization insurance constraints of their provider to basically let her out. This is definitely an interesting scenario. He actually divorced her in August of 2004, saying that he and Yates had no longer lived as a married couple since the day of the murders. Which I understand. If your wife murders your children, you can't be happy with that person. The divorce was granted on March 17th, after which Rusty began dating his second wife, Laura. He married Laura in March 2006. They had one child together, a son, but she filed for divorce in 2015. Not sure why. I'm sure I could actually look into this even more. Something tells me that it's because of the whole incident that happened, or maybe they just didn't get along. I'm not sure. What do y'all think of this? Do you think it was the doctor's fault that this happened? I don't think so. I think that, maybe if they saw a different psychiatrist to begin with, It did say that she did see more than one. Maybe if she actually went to someone that she could talk to about everything in her head. Maybe she felt as though she could not say what everything she was thinking, feeling, everything of this nature. I do hope that those adorable 5 children do find peace. I do hope that his child from his second wife ends up living a good, happy, full life. And I do hope that he finds happiness. Rusty Yates. I hope he finds happiness. And I also hope that Andrea Yates continues her treatment. I also hope she never gets out. Because obviously you murdered your 5 children, and that is not okay. Let me know your thoughts on this case in the comment section down below. But honestly, someone like that should not be allowed to get out. Someone like that should stay where they are for the rest of their life. I don't think she should get out. Now, a lot of people are probably going to say, oh, but she was mentally ill. They said she knew right from wrong when she committed the murder. That means she knew what she was doing was wrong. It is different if at the time of the crime being committed that they did not know right from wrong. That would have been a different scenario. I say scenario a lot. I don't know. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and help me by wishing that all those poor young souls that were taken from us too early, that they find peace. And I will see you all in the next video.